Now, last year we started to have the conversation about LeBron's greatest teammate ever. Was it Kyrie or was it Dwayne Wade who helped them win 2 titles? Well, as you know, guys, the NBA arms race demands that you collect high-powered talent in order to be able to compete for championships. As Sekou Smith explains, making it work, though, is easier said than done.
Winning takes care of everything.
The only question that can ever be said about this team is, what's next?
Well, almost everything. It couldn't save Cleveland from one of the greatest sports divorces of all time.
When Boston came a-knocking, I was answering.
I had a ton of emotions, wondering if something I could have did better to make him not want to be traded.
We're all human beings, and I think that we've all been through a few hard times to where it's changed the landscape of what you think and what you feel.
Winning the biggest prize and ending Cleveland's 52-year title drought with a championship in 2016 wasn't enough to keep the king and the kid together.
Try to do whatever I could do to help the kid out. I wish the kid great health.
He don't reach his prime for another 3 years. Thank you, Kyrie.
You're either with us or you're against us. I'm not giving him
Tired of toiling in LeBron's unrelenting shadow, Kyrie rocked the basketball world with a trade request none of us saw coming. He wanted out, and he didn't bother consulting with or asking permission from LeBron.
Have you spoken with LeBron since asking for the trade?
No.
Ask anyone who has ever played with, coached, or simply been in LeBron's orbit on a daily basis, and they will tell you it's all LeBron all the time.
Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
Drained the biggest shot in franchise history to seal the Cavaliers' title 2 years ago, and all anybody wants to talk about is LeBron's block and fulfilled destiny.
Cleveland! This is for you! Oh!
They were an odd couple from the start.
Tonight again, he had no assists. Does he get a pass, though, for tonight because of the circumstances, or?
Don't none of us get a pass tonight. It's not just Kyrie.
Kyrie was the result of LeBron's departure from Cleveland to Miami, where he would lead the Heat to championship glory.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6.
Kyrie, the #1 pick in the 2011 draft, was handed the keys to the kingdom.
I'm not really looking to replace LeBron, honestly. I'm just trying to be Kyrie Irving.
He was the face of the franchise. That is, until LeBron decided to bring his talents back from South Beach, days after Kyrie had signed a max extension deal on his rookie contract.
I'm a dude what makes my city and my state happy, and that's why I came back. I love you. I'm back.
LeBron never bothered with the courtesy of consulting with Kyrie about that. So instead of leading the Cavaliers out of the lottery wilderness and back into contention in the Eastern Conference, Kyrie was forced to play the role of sidekick when the prodigal son returned home. 3 years of winning at the highest level, of cementing himself as a champion and superstar, and being little brother and playing into the LeBron as father figure narrative was clearly enough.
So what type of parental role has he played for you and your teammates, LeBron?
I have one father. That's my dad, Frederick Irving.
Any notion of mending fences during training camp or repairing the damage to a relationship that was never as warm and fuzzy as we were led to believe disappeared on a long, hot summer of passive-aggressive subtweets and social media digs between the two. The Cavaliers finally granted his trade demand, sending him to rival Boston. And just like that, they went from teammates riding through downtown Cleveland in the championship parade to rivals, bitter ones at that. Someone has to win this next step to prove that they don't need the other to be a champion. The only question is, who gets there first? Because for the both of them, until further notice, winning and winning big without the other is the only thing that matters.
Good stuff there, Sekou. You've been an essay machine lately.
Good job, boy.
I got talent.
I can't get on players only, so I got to do something.
Right? Hey, man, let's do writers only. Writers only.
I talked to David Aldridge about it. We've been trying to work on it. We need somebody, you know.
Writers only.
You can get on players only if you really want to. Just come on in with me and GA.
Yeah.
I take a quarter off.
You can take, yeah. Matter of fact, you do a half.
Watch out.
It's after 9 o'clock.
Watch out.
I don't know if you're going to be able to make it.
Watch out now.
When you were putting this piece together, as you look back at the relationships on and off the court, you learn you know, the cost of playing with LeBron, ultimately, you know, the reward is you think you're going to have a shot to win a title and maybe you win one. But it's not always easy. It's not just, it doesn't work just by stepping into the gym.
Well, it doesn't work for everybody the same, Jared. And I think the shock for Kyrie was, think about it. He signed a huge extension on his rookie deal, and then LeBron comes back to Cleveland. All the dynamics shifted. So you didn't have a situation where Kyrie was a part of the recruiting process necessarily, where he could be on board with the idea of LeBron coming back. All of that was handled above and beyond where Kyrie Irving's control was at the time with the franchise. I just think it was a shock to Kyrie's system, and one that maybe he never really got a chance to come to grips with. Because when you get in that LeBron fishbowl, Smitty, GA, you guys know, LeBron brings with him a different level of scrutiny for not only himself, but everybody involved with the organization around him. So Kyrie didn't get an opportunity to really ease into the prime physical years of his career in Cleveland because you had the LeBron effect. And I think we often overlook little things that happen along the course, you know, and along that path. Kyrie didn't get a chance to play a healthy finals his first time around. Second time around, he makes the shot, hits that huge shot, biggest shot that everybody says is the biggest shot in the history of, you know, Cleveland Cavaliers basketball. I just feel like he wanted a certain level of respect after he hit that shot and after he did what he did to help bring that championship to Cleveland. And I don't know that it was ever given internally. And I'm not knocking anybody or pointing fingers. I'm just saying if that's his perception, if that's the way he viewed it, that's why you saw him take the actions that he did to demand a trade.
And Kyrie got his wish. He got moved and got a really good situation in Boston. All-star swap, right? The two best teams in the East, trading point guards, as you guys discussed last night.
I will say, though, since he's been in the league, the LeBron effect, every organization.
It's effective.
Every individual has benefited from the LeBron effect.
Well, now we'll see.
It's been all positive.
How it works with Isaiah being incorporated, and obviously his health a big part of it. He won't play tonight. He's riding the bike before the game. And Isaiah did speak to the media, admitting that his Cavs debut last night wasn't just another game. So what he said, guys, was last night was one of the best days of my life. I felt like a basketball player again. I felt like I was somebody again.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you forget the emotional roller coaster this young man has been on the last year. Losing his sister, dealing with that significant injury, then being traded out of nowhere. It's a lot to have to endure. It really is, from an emotional standpoint. We're getting beyond the basketball player. It takes time to process all of that. And so now I think he's finally, with the ability to get back on the court where he probably feels free, you know, it's kind of taken some of the stress and the anxiety out of his world and allowed him to get back to doing what he loves.
Because when you're rehabbing, I mean, there might be a little basketball involved, but you're not going to work like you're used to every day.
And I think for me and all of us who's been around there, when everybody said it was his hip, I never really got what was really wrong with his hip. And so that has to be scary. And first of all, he's still 5'7". Not knowing 6'8" guy can go out there and limp around. I did it for about 12 years. When you 5'7", ain't no limping around and being just as effective. So I'm sure he was a little bit scared. To GA's point, you lose your sister, a family member. And I think he was hurt because he gave everything to that Boston Celtics organization. So I think for him and he also said it, we heard earlier, he's in a locker room where he sees LeBron and D. Wade. How special is that? No matter what, he's obviously an unbelievable talent, but these are.
We know his son
guys.
Likes it, right?
Yeah, my son would too. My son would love it too. You talking about, they're not just Hall of Famers. They're a little bit above Hall of Famers in my opinion. So I think for him to get a chance to play basketball again on a big stage and have a chance to win it, he's got to be excited.
Guys, there was a human element to this, as you mentioned, all that Isaiah went through. And whether you believed him or not, Danny Ainge said it was a difficult trade to make. And now we've seen the players-only video that, the uninterrupted video. You guys didn't put out a video. The uninterrupted video.
Players-only's in your brain.
Right, that Isaiah Thomas put out a couple of weeks ago. And there seems to be this anger. Now, a couple of moments ago, one reporter tweeting out that Isaiah and Danny did text, Danny Ainge, the president of basketball operations for the Celtics. They did text last night, and he seemed to consider that it's the trade water, it's under the bridge at this point, for whatever that means. He also added, Isaiah, that it would have been nice if Danny would have sent him a Christmas card, but he didn't do that. Well, why does this matter? Like, why do we care if a player is upset with a president of an organization?
Well, I think we care because of the circumstance, because of the context of the situation. Everybody, was captivated watching him perform in that playoffs after what he went through in his personal life, losing his sister the way he did. So there was a kind of an understanding that, hey, this is a guy whose story everybody had followed since he was the last pick in the draft, and it seemed like he had finally found his NBA home, a place where he could not only be the player he thought he could be, but an all-star and an MVP candidate and a guy who leads a storied franchise back to prominence. And for him to get moved the way he did was a shock. It was a shock to his system. It was a shock to the NBA system because of the context of it being Cleveland and everything else. I watched the Players Tribune video. I went back and watched all the stuff he talked about. He laid his heart out. I mean, he really said exactly how he felt and talked about how much it ravaged him and his family.